I'm curious, if you were to ask some of your closest realtor partners, what value is there in Jonthan's process, that repeatable process that you've established, what do you think they would say?
Communication, and I think that we spoke about it, and I think a few of them would say that I over communicate. And a few of them just earlier this week gave me the example of my wife was literally giving labor, and I was texting, realtors on the side. They were asking about a client and a listing agent. They're putting offers out, and I'm like, "We'll get right on it," or "Call my assistant. He'll follow up and get it." My wife is like literally pushing right now. I'll get back to you. So like he over communicates, but once again, it's never. I don't shy away, and there's good, this industry, there's ups and there's downs and there's everything in between in unique scenarios. And I don't only share and follow up when things are good. I tell them, hey, I need a little bit of help, or this popped up, and they're okay with it. They appreciate the communication and the transparency.
Welcome back to Good Better Broker as we bring in Jonthan Esposito. He is a mortgage broker with Rise Mortgage based in West Hartford, Connecticut. Jonthan, great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be on.
So you have had a very interesting path to becoming a mortgage broker, from the Ivy League and a Princeton education to working on Wall Street and tech sales, and now to mortgages. Before we jump in here, I just want to ask you, when you reflect back on your path, what comes to mind?
It's been a wild ride. And I haven't taken the most direct path into mortgages, but I've met great people along the way. And just networking and learning about different opportunities and not hesitating jumping in is what's gotten to me where I am.
Well, 3 years now in the industry for you. You did almost 200 transactions last year. You're on pace for that or more this year. And for you, Jonthan, it's all about building a repeatable and scalable process. And you've come to that, by being a student of the game, if you will. You've learned from a lot of other people who are in the mortgage industry. But how did you determine that was going to be the thing that you needed for your business?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you said student of the game. So reflecting back, following a repeatable, structured process has been something that I've adapted to every facet of my life, right? So school and academics, and then also I played football, basketball, baseball growing up, football in college. And I learned very early on, you have to be very disciplined and structured and organized in order to accomplish your goals, right? And I'm very big on setting goals. In order to get there, you have to be structured. And that translated over really well into kind of the working industry. So I'll give you a quick funny story. So the tech startup that I worked at prior to getting into mortgages, I worked alongside one of the co-founders, Brett Adcock, and look up to him. He's been a great mentor to me, really admire him. And I was hired as the first business development rep, and we had the goal of hiring, over 100 of them. So we're like really scaling. We're a venture-backed startup, and we're going in extreme growth mode. And so I was sitting there, and as we were going after like how to build out the team, it all started with the process and structure. And we were creating sequences, which sequences are comprised of different tasks. So a task could be a cold call, an email, a LinkedIn connect, so on and so forth. And so we went through and structured, out a whole cadence, and we were following the cadence, what works, I was the guinea pig. What works, what doesn't work, how do we replace things? Oh, let's change our verbiage. Oh, this thing didn't get a good open rate. Oh, this got a great open rate, but not a good response rate. How do we change that? And I'll never forget, I was sitting in the airport, and I had a work trip out to California. I was like, okay, where I'm going, what are some cool companies around here? So I'm looking, and I'm like, oh, wow, Netflix is where I'm going. It's a really cool, it's right in the neighborhood of where I'm going. Let me try and get a meeting with them. So I logged into LinkedIn, and I went through, and I had mutual connections, and I was texting on the side, buddies and friends, former classmates and teammates. And I got a meeting with the highest up in the division that we were looking to sell in at Netflix. So I was pumped. I was so excited. I was like, we're starting. This is a great experience and a great company to go after, obviously. And I'll never forget, I called Brett, and I was like, hey, we just got a meeting scheduled with Netflix. And instead of like extreme excitement, he was like, how'd you do it? Did you follow the sequence? What number in the sequence was it? And I'm like, no, well, I texted a friend on the side, and he's like, well, that's not part of the sequence. Like, that's not a repeatable process to go and hire 100 people to say, hey, like, go ad hoc, text people on the side. So that's when it like really got ingrained in me of like, great, okay, so now, and then we changed up our cadence to be like, okay, look and see if you have mutual connections. But that always stuck with me of like how important it is to follow a structure, and be diligent with it.
That's a great story. Here you are all excited because you got a meeting with Netflix.
Exactly.
And they're like, but did you follow the plan?
Exactly. Right, like, what part of the cadence was it?
Oh, that's
like,
great.
Oh, was
So now, fast forward to you being with Rise Mortgage and being a mortgage broker. Tell us what goes into your process that makes it both repeatable and scalable.
People and technology, right? And I think our goal is always to be as effective and efficient as possible. And that's why whenever technology could come in and help assist, great. Make sure you take advantage of it. There's a lot of great technologies and tools out there to help you build that process. So you're not doing the mundane, tasks that take a lot of time that could be automated and done very quickly. And that way you're allocating your human resources to the tasks that help you grow and scale. And so like the touch points, the phone calls, right, the following up and things that actually matter to like growing and scaling the business. So yeah, it's all about hiring the right way and having technology assist whenever possible.
Speaking of technology, you mentioned to me that when you worked in tech sales, you were managing 300,000 leads in tech sales. How do you describe the way your past experience helps as a mortgage broker?
Yeah, so it's like you said, we were B2B and we were scaling rapidly and we had all these leads in the pipeline. It was how do you manage them? How do you hire enough people to then set their schedule and set their day and what's important, what works, what doesn't work? And so same thing, like on the mortgage side, I found out what I enjoy doing, what leads to success. And for me, I'm big on in-person meetings. Right. And whether it's breakfast or lunches or dinners or golf or charity events, whatever it may be, I love establishing that personal connection, with my referral sources and knowing, okay, this is what I'm good at. This is what I enjoy doing. How do I plug and play other members and hire other members of the team to help assist on everything else? Right. Because I found out very early on that me going in and collecting documents and reviewing the income, although obviously extremely important, like I don't need to be the one that's doing that, right? And that's how I'm able to hire somebody who knows guidelines and all that just as well, if not better than I do, to go in and help with that while I'm focusing on other parts of the business and the growth of the business and also what I enjoy doing.
Another part of your story is that you started investing in real estate right after you got out of college. What did you learn from that experience that has influenced the way you work as a mortgage broker?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I bought a few properties, out of college, and once again, that was a goal of mine in terms of goal setting. And my goal was to, every quarter earn enough for a down payment, right, through my commissions and the sales role that I was in. And so I was buying, anywhere from 1 to 3 properties a year over a few years. And so I went through the transaction a bunch of times. And then same thing, obviously, when rates dropped before I got into the industry, I refinanced almost all the properties. And so it really helped me understand how I wanted to build my business, because going through the process really helped me. What was important to me? What do I wish that somebody followed up and told me? Now that I know more about what I do, like, what do I wish I knew more of up front? And I remember a lot of the transactions I was there, I was worried. Obviously, you're making a huge transaction, like you're nervous. You want it to go through. You don't want anything to pop up last second. And so that's why I've constructed our follow-ups and our cadences to working backwards of like, great, me being in their shoes, when would I want to have been updated? So we are proactively reaching out to provide those updates versus having the clients on the other end nervous, and not know where they stand. We really pride ourselves on reaching out and providing proactive updates.
I want to ask you more about working backwards. Tell our listeners what that means to you and why it's important to do it.
Yeah, so it goes back to like treating others the way that you want it to be treated, right? And putting yourself in their shoes, okay? So if you're a real estate agent, right? Or so for me, I get almost all my business through realtor referrals. So great, if I'm in the shoes of the real estate agent referring me a deal, how would I want, did you follow up with them? How is the conversation? Where do you see their price point being? How long until we're going to have an answer? Oh, there's something outstanding that you're waiting on? Are you following up? Like all these things, if I were in their shoes, I would want to know. So that's why I set myself at, not only in their shoes, but also my end goal is to do this, right? And then now when the loan is in process, clear to close, how do we work backwards and make sure that we're providing every appropriate update and, keeping them in the loop so that way they're enjoying their experience because they know where they stand every step of the way.
Mortgage loan originators and real estate agents, as we know, don't always see eye to eye in this business. It's just part of the deal. You look at your relationship with your realtor partners a little bit differently. Explain how you view those relationships.
I mean, they're literally my lifeline, right? And so that's why effective communication solves everything, right? And we want to be as transparent and as forward with our communication as possible. And they really appreciate that and respect that. You might be nervous of like, hey, something popped up. I think that there's a workaround. It might take another day or two to get it solved. And instead of saying, hey, we need another day or two and putting them off so that way they're like, what's going on? I'm expecting this. It's all about expectation setting, right? And communication. And so that's why telling them, instead of hiding that and saying, oh, I need a day or two, pushing on the back end, not only will it make them happier, it'll also make you feel a lot better as well if you're proactively reaching out and say, hey, I understand the mortgage commitment date is on this day. Something popped up. We need 1 or 2 more days. Here's what, and just keeping them in the loop. And they'll come back to be like, wow, thank you so much for telling me, right? They all know at the end of the day, we have the same goal, right? Like we want the client to close on their dream home, accomplish the American dream. I want the realtor to get paid and have a phenomenal experience. And that's why just upfront communication and, once again, treating them how you would want to be treated if you were in their shoes. Like that's how I approach every aspect of the business.
I want to ask you more about communication with your realtor partners because, for anyone in this business who works on referrals from realtors, there might be this perception that they have to sleep with their eyes open because they always have to be available for their realtor partners. And you and I were talking about this before the interview. You have a few different ways that you approach communication with your realtors, and I want you to explain to our listeners kind of how you view that.
Yeah, I mean, I am always available because it is such a big part of my life, and I understand where they are coming from. So the realtor is trusting me with their transaction for them to make their livelihood, right? And the borrower is trusting me with helping them accomplish the American dream and getting in a house. So I don't take that lightly. I take that very seriously. And it's just a part of, who I am and how I approach my business. And because I understand like how big the transaction is on both ends, right? And so that's why we take it really seriously. We are always proactive in our approach and proactive in our communication, just to deliver the best experience, from A to Z.
But you were telling me that, there would be times where you'd be out to dinner and you might get a text or a call from a realtor and you'd run home to log on. Yeah. But as things have progressed and you've learned more, you've kind of figured out some ways to get around that, right?
Yeah, so it's sometimes fires pop up in this industry and, hey, we're making an immediate offer. We have to get an updated letter, right? And so that things like that come up and sometimes either I have to step out or, once again, I hire a team, right? And I was speaking to an LO a couple months ago and they asked me, like, how can I grow and scale my business? Like, they said, oh, I saw your numbers. You're doing great things. Like, I want to pick your brain. I want to grow. And so I asked him, I said, walk me through your day-to-day. He's like, well, I'm taking naps, and I'm collecting ducks, and then I'm doing this, and I'm doing that. And so I was like, okay, it sounds like, is that you doing everything? And he said, yes, I'm doing everything. And I said, well, have you ever considered like a loan officer assistant or, hiring a team, a support team? And he's like, I'm not doing enough volume to warrant that. And so that's when we took a step back and we walked through like everything that he was doing. We counted up all of the hours, something like 15 hours a week he was spending on reviewing documents, requesting updated documents, and clarifying like specific guideline questions whenever a unique scenario popped up. And so I said, okay, well, if you reallocate those 15 hours to business building activities and coffees and lunches and whatever it may be, and stopping by their office or doing open houses, right, that could lead to a lot more business. And yes, sometimes, what came first, the chicken or the egg? And do you need the business first in order to hire somebody? Do you hire somebody before doing it? And, he told me, he followed up with me, a few months after that, and was like, I did it. I found somebody who's willing to do it on kind of like a per file basis. So he made it work on the economic side, but he was so thankful, and like it really changed his entire career and the amount of business that he's doing. And so that's why I think in order to scale and do the business that I want, I have to hire a lot of people. And that's why if I'm not available, I'll have a conversation with them. And sometimes, once again, going back to communication, oh my God, we have to get this offer in. Sometimes if I'm not available or if my team isn't available, I'll call the listing agent and I'll say, hey, just want you to know, fully underwritten, fully approved, good to go. You're going up $10,000. Their DTI was phenomenal. Credit is great. I'm out right now, but is it okay if I get it, when I get back? And the responses that I get for that are unbelievable. Like, thank you so much. Or, wow, you communicating this to me makes me confident that you're going to communicate everything else to me. And so just having trust in the system, being communicative, and having a great support team really allows you to scale.
I think it's a great point. Just the fact that you've built up this equity with your realtor partners, the fact that you can say to them, is this urgent, or is it okay if I get back to you in the morning? And the fact that they're okay with that says a lot about the relationship that you have with them.
They know how much I value them, and I take nothing for granted, right? And as you mentioned, I've only been in the industry for a few years, right? And so I don't think I did a purchase transaction outside of a friend or family so I started in the beginning of 21. And I don't think I did many purchase transactions in 21, right? Rates were mid-twos. We were refinancing everybody. But in 2022, when rates flipped and I said, okay, you need to focus on like the purchase side in order to win in this market and in this industry, they knew how important they were to me, and they knew that I gave them everything. And that's why, communication and being available for them and just delivering the best experience, because that also is a motivator for me. Because I remember, okay, a lot of the realtors that I'm working with, they've been in the industry for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And so I swooped in and got their business by working hard and by being communicative and everything that we've been talking about. Where if I take my foot off the gas pedal at all, somebody else could swoop in, right? And take my position. And so that's why, to your point, great, how do you sustain, hire more people? And have it be your team responsibility to go and reach out. If I can't, because business is growing and I'm on the road or I'm traveling or I'm spending time with my son, then we can't just say, oh, I'm busy, I can't reach out. Somebody has to reach out, right? And that's why they know I give it my all and just trying to improve for them and provide value back to them.
I'm curious, if you were to ask some of your closest realtor partners, what value is there in Jonthan's process, that repeatable process that you've established, what do you think they would say?
Communication, and I think that we spoke about it, and I think a few of them would say that I over communicate. And a few of them just earlier this week gave me the example of my wife was literally giving labor, and I was texting, realtors on the side. They were asking about a client and a listing agent. They were putting offers out, and I'm like, "We'll get right on it," or call my assistant. He'll follow up and get it. My wife is like literally pushing right now. I'll get back to you. So like he over communicates, but once again, it's never. I don't shy away, and there's good, this industry, there's ups and there's downs and there's everything in between and unique scenarios. And I don't only share and follow up when things are good. I tell them, hey, I need a little bit of help, or this popped up, and they're okay with it. They appreciate the communication and the transparency.
You told me that you are very intentional about your business decisions. What does that mean, Jonthan?
Yeah, so once again, kind of viewing it from like if I were in their shoes, or like how could I give back, right? And so an example. So I hired earlier this year full-time videographer, social media specialist, right? And everyone's like, "Oh, that's great." You know, it was really important for me because I've never been big on social media, and so that's why he's helped me kind of grow my brand and my presence and get out there, and so he's been huge, you know, in helping me on my branding and you know, expanding the word and getting out there. But there are a lot of ways that I could hire these different tools or automated systems to like record me. I send it to them. They make it look pretty, and that's that. So really the reason why he was hired is to help my partners and different realtors, you know, in locally around me. And so I was very intentional with that hire, coming from like, how could I help them win? How could I help my partners win? Right? Yeah, I value the business that they send me and that they trust me to literally, once again, help with their livelihood and, you know, help their buyer and their reputation. And so I want to help them in return. How could I do that? Yes, I'm always available. Yes, I'll give it my all. Right? But what could I do beyond that? And that's why I was like, okay, I'm going to hire somebody who's full-time, W-2, and they're there to help, whether it's headshots or, you know, new listing photos or cool new listing video walkthroughs or just personal branding, you know, for themselves, right? Like we have realtors that come in all the time and are shooting content about them, or, you know, we have one partner that has recorded like a rap video and then like a country song, and that's how like he wants to get out there and appeal to his clientele. And, you know, he's a funny guy, great guy. And so my videographer, great, is sitting there and meets with him every week and goes over different ideas. And that's how, like, I want to give back, because I'm very fortunate and blessed to have people who rely on me, that I want them to know how much they mean to me.
It's great. And it's a whole other level of providing value, right? When you, like you said, you hire a full-time employee, this social media person, and the bulk of what they do is providing content for your realtor partners, not for you. So I think it's a really smart play. What about being intentional in your outreach?
Yeah, so for me, I understand, and this goes back to what we spoke about earlier, of in order to grow and be happy, like I work nonstop, but I love what I do. All right? I love what I do because I focus on what I enjoy. And so with the outreach and how I've been able to kind of scale my business is I deliver, you know, try to be best class and best in class services I could possibly provide. And once somebody has a great experience, I always try and make all of my cold outreaches warm outreaches. So what do I mean by that? Okay, hey, Joe, I see, you know, Sally's doing great work. I'd love to meet with Sally. Can you put in a good word? Or can we go to breakfast together? Or, you know, can I mention that I work with you? Right? Something in my outreach to make it a warm introduction versus a cold one. And that leads to them being more receptive. And that's really helped me expand my business by just, once again, focusing on what I love doing, working with people that appreciate and understand the partnership between us, and they value it. And those are the people that I want to work with and who, you know, I think would be a good mesh.
It's kind of the same thing as when someone hits you up on LinkedIn, right? Even if it's somebody who's reaching out for career advice or wanting to know if you know somebody at a company about a job, it always helps if that person says something that they looked up about you or some common connection, right? That always seems to help. So I think it's really smart that you do that, and it makes tons of sense. You said your goal is to get to a point where your system can give back. How do you get there?
Continuing to hire the right people, implement the right technologies, and take feedback, right? And I think the industry is always evolving. There's always new products, new types of service, new programs, whatever it may be, and just trying to always be ahead of the curve, right? And I think you guys are a great example of that, right? You guys are known for having the best technology and being the best all around. You know, that's what makes you number one. But now you come out with, for example, Chat UWM. right? And it's like, okay, they're getting ahead of the curve. Do they need that right now in order to succeed? No, you guys have been our number one and have been number one, but you always think of how can you improve. And so that's why I'm always trying to be forward thinking of and taking feedback of how we can make people better and ultimately like be ingrained in our community to help as many people as possible grow and accomplish their dreams. And that's why, people always ask me, like, why do you work as hard as you do? And and once again, it's because I love what I'm doing. I love giving back. I love helping others. And I just want as many people to accomplish their goals as possible and to provide a great experience while doing it.
Well, you're doing it for the right reasons, and you're doing a lot of great things. And oh, by the way, you're doing it in your hometown, and I know that means a ton to you to have a brick and mortar set up, right there in your hometown, helping people in your community. So, hats off to you. Thanks for being with us, Jonthan Esposito from Rise Mortgage. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching Good Better Broker and helping us support independent mortgage brokers everywhere. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to be notified about new videos, as well as your preferred podcast platform for a new episode every other Tuesday.